Welcome back to the Brothers in Business podcast. Today we're talking about owning your own business and the benefits around that. Now, for us, I would say massive benefit is, well, taxes.
If you want to go there, we can start with taxes if you want.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, to go out there and start your own business, there's got to be some sort of incentive as an owner, because you're putting everything on the line. You're putting a lot of money into something, an idea that you've had or a product that you believe in. And, there's got to be something that at the end of the year that you can use as a benefit to yourself to really pay yourself back. Because if you didn't have that, you're not going to be able to run a business for too long, because there's no benefits to actually having anything there.
Small businesses are literally the backbone of our entire economy. And, without small businesses, whether that's people that are self-employed or whether that's people running sort of small, 2 to 6 person, businesses that are classed as like a lifestyle business, they are the backbone of our economy. They are what keeps this country running. They provide jobs, they provide taxes back to the government, they provide a service and a product, and they solve problems for a wider community. The whole reason behind starting a business, and if you are thinking about starting a business, the first place that you should start is finding a problem to solve for as many people as possible and then going about solving it. Whether it's a service or a product, find something that you've got a lot of knowledge on or that you're passionate about and that will help a lot of people. If failing that, you could either look at a potential other business that might not be doing as good a job as you think you could do and solve that problem better than they are. So small businesses are the backbone of the country and most countries. And like you said, there does need to be some incentives for having people take the risk for starting that business. So like you said, taxes is the first one. So getting into it, we obviously changed our payment structure. Most people have to go through a PAYE system. So if you're an employee, you have to pay the government first. Before you get a penny of your earnings, they dip their hands into your pockets and they take a percentage of your earnings away from you without you ever seeing it. I mean, that's just insane to me. Having a business, we do it the other way around. We pay our taxes at the end of the year via a tax return, and we pay our taxes last. So we keep our own money in our pockets for a lot longer, which gives us more control over our finances.
Yeah, well, that is exactly it. And, starting, I mean, I'm going to go back a bit as well. When you're starting your own businesses, one of the most important things to do is, your market research and things, and actually making sure that the idea and the product that you're actually putting out into the market is going to be something that people are going to want. I think we've discussed that before on one of our other episodes. But, there has got to be a benefit of owning and running a business. Now, I know that, people want to tax businesses because they think that every business is, some big multinational, which just isn't the case. Most businesses are small mum and dad operations or small, like you said, 10 odd staff. And when the landscape changes for those companies, it makes it a lot harder to pivot and change because they haven't got the resources that some of these other bigger companies have got. And it's important to keep some of these things in place, in my opinion, to help those companies to use the money to grow and develop, put systems in place, because it helps everyone and employ further staff.
Well, it goes like you said, there needs to be incentive. The country needs businesses. And if they scare everyone into creating businesses, if they make everybody equal, and whether you own a business or whether you're a part of a business as an employee, then you're basically on the same level playing field. Why would anybody start a new business? They would simply just go and work for somebody else because there's no benefits to them. And those that have businesses will take their businesses to other countries. And then those countries will be laughing all the way to the bank, because they'll look at how the UK are treating the small businesses and welcome them in with open arms and laugh at us the whole while, because the small businesses will land on their shores, they'll start benefiting from the small businesses being located there, whilst the UK will just fall further and further into decline, where there will be less jobs, there'll be less money coming in at the end of the year, there'll be less opportunity, there'll be less incentive for people to be successful. And so the whole thing will just fall on its face. And again, anybody, I know I will, for example, if they start taking the benefits away from having businesses, we will start to look elsewhere because it just wouldn't be justifiable. And I don't know about you, but I now am not in a position where I could work for anyone else. You know, I am unemployable at this point because who I am as a person and how my mind works wouldn't suit working under anybody else.
But I'm following an instruction. It's a bit like, you know, you'd be going into other people's business. I mean, we kind of do it now, where we'd go into small businesses and just for our own, you know, development and how we think about how we could improve our own business. We'll walk into, say, I don't know, a small shop and just say, what could we do to improve this place? Now, you know, I think some employers probably quite like that, but I think if we were going for jobs or working somewhere else, doing that all the time, it could grate on some people or some owners because, you know, that's how some people are.
It depends on the quality of your employer, but again, getting back to sort of like you said, the benefits of us having a business, you know, obviously taxes are a big one, you know, so we get to pay ourselves first. So we get a dividend structure as well, which means that we pay a reduction in taxes. Now, we'll go through some of the benefits and then obviously people are going to potentially be quite upset or, you know, frustrated at some of the benefits that you can see. But, you know, the one thing that everybody sort of needs to remember is nothing is stopping you from going and starting a business. And everyone's quick to complain. Everyone's saying, well, that's not fair. No one's telling you you can't go and start a business. Watch episodes of this podcast and we'll outline the exact processes, who you need to be, what you need to do to go and start a business. Then you can start taking advantages from these benefits just as we do. So you can start paying yourself first when it comes to taxes. The government do not touch our money until the end of the year when we file a tax return, which, because of the dividends that we pay ourselves, we pay a lesser percentage of tax due to that, which is, again, a benefit of having a business. The next big one is the freedom owning a business affords, but also loses you. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? So the freedom it allows us gives us the ability to travel. Now, between the two of us, this year, we visited China twice. We've been to Vegas. We've been to Germany. We've been to Italy. And I'm traveling to Dubai on Sunday this week. So the beauty of having a business is that freedom of being able to travel.
I bet everyone's going to love that one. Don't want to roll everyone. But no, but it's true. I mean, you know, these things that affords you the luxury of, you know, meeting customers, meeting people, meeting these businesses. And, you know, Vegas was a massive one where, again, you get the luxury of half the time doing business, meetings, meeting the right people, which has got to add the value to then afford the trip, because we don't look at it that, oh, yeah, well, let's just go to Vegas and, oh, we'll have I mean, it was a great time, don't get me wrong.
I lost 500 quid.
I won 800. But, you know, you've still got to pay for the trip and build the relationships of the people you're going to visit or whatever it might be that you're going for. But there's got to be a reason. It's not just about, oh, let's go to Vegas, because you're not going to have any profits in the company. Yeah. It's going to go bust if you go too silly with it.
It's a great way to look at it. For me, again, when you cost up a trip and when we actually look at it, you know, it was about $5,000 all in, but we won just one order out of that trip from going, which the profit alone was around 10,000, and it's reoccurring revenue every year. Now that's just one order. We won more than that. And again, the relationships that we've created when we were there more than paid for the trip. So it's about understanding that ROI, return on investment, for a small trip over there. So, you know, we got to afford the luxury of flying out there business class. We got to go on a lovely flight. We got a great hotel. We stayed in luxury. We met really good people and networked with the right people. And like you said, all in the business, it cost about £5,000-6,000, but we made that money back so fast just by going. And the benefit of having a business and owning a business, certainly one like ours where it's so international, it affords you that luxury of being able to travel. You know, we went to go and visit our suppliers in China. And again, traveling first class, going in to stay in the nicest hotels, all at the business's expense. It's not cost me personally a penny. It's nothing. It's been absolutely free. Yet I've been able to travel to some of these places, which most people would only dream of, in the, you know, in the luxury that I did, because the business was able to cover the expenses and I've not had to pay a penny. But again, it's about going with the right mindset that you're not there for pleasure. It's a bit of both. Obviously, it's the luxury of being able to go, but also you need to make it worth the while.
Yeah, well, exactly that. And I went to Ireland as well, into Galway, County Galway, Ed Sheeran. Didn't see him there. But, you know, again, it's costing about the trip, you know, again, staying in a nice place, you know, getting a car to go and see customers. And those trips cost themselves now. You know, I've built up a relationship with someone in that area as a customer. But, you know, they're interested in potentially even looking at other avenues of working with us away from the business format. And he wants to potentially even look at setting up his own business. And then you don't only forge a relationship with a company that or person that you're going to go see. Well, you are again, yeah, exactly, forging the relationship with the person as well as the business. And you never know what could come from that.
Relationships is a big benefit. So it's a good segue on to the next point, is meeting the people through business that you get to meet that you wouldn't otherwise get to meet. You know, it's almost like we went to go and see Rob Moore at sort of a big moneymakers summit that he was doing and he was hosting. And we got to meet some of the hosts of that, Ryan Pinnock, obviously Rob Moore himself, Kane and Ash, obviously, who helped put us onto this. And without having a business that could afford us the luxury of being able to travel, we would never have created those connections. Now, you don't need to have a business to create those connections, but when you've got one, it almost acts as a badge of honor and respect that you can attach yourself to, so that when you're speaking to people and you talk about your vision and your mission for the business, and they get an idea of who you are and what you're doing with the business that you're in or that you control, they are much more likely to want to spend time with you and give you their time and share their knowledge, as opposed to some people who are just going to sort of see it as you trying to take from them, rather than you actually being able to give back to them as well. So the relationships you can form through owning a business are really quite unique in that way.
Yeah, and it ends up being a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because, I mean, they say, don't they, you know, your network is your net worth. And by having a business, you can then meet these people that, you know, some of them, they've got a lot of power in what they can do and what they can spend. I mean, some of the people we deal with, they've got a purchasing power of, you know, like they can spend 2 million a year with one supplier. And this sort of person can just write you a check or write you a purchase order for 200, 300, 400,000. And it's like nothing to it. And if you end up being friends with these people, it makes those relationships a lot better and makes your network stronger. And you know, it's a massive benefit to our business and anyone's business who does the networking.
Even in your personal life, though, you know, if you've got somebody that can write you a check for that much money, you know, if you're in deep shit and you need cash quick, and there's somebody that you've built a relationship with that is strong and that is solid, you know, that can be such a massive benefit to your life that you wouldn't be able to make those connections otherwise without you having an element of success behind you, because successful people are attracted to successful people. And, you know, we're all similar in the fact that regardless of how we were successful, we've all gone through that pain. We've all gone through the hard work that it takes to reach that level of success. And we all understand that. So we have more time for one another. So if there's something that one person has learned, whether it's, I don't want to say a money-making hack, but, you know, they might have had something where there's a new budget's come out recently, for example, in the UK, and they might have had an accountant give them some advice on how to best tax plan for that new budget. And they share that information with people that they're also learning from as well. So you join a community where everybody's sort of helping each other out. And we spoke earlier about, certain communities who are very like one-sided and they don't want to listen to other people and they've got their own opinions. Actually, more successful people generally tend to be aligned in that sort of success rather than caring about political beliefs or morals or what background they're from or sexual orientation they belong to. They don't care. All they care about is that they're successful and there's something that they could learn from that person.
Yeah, and I mean, podcasting is huge for it. I mean, this because you can see there's the mutual benefit for both parties. Where someone like, and again, to name drop again, but Donald Trump goes on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Joe Rogan, he gets lots of views anyway, but he's got a big platform. Donald Trump, he wants the views and the exposure. So there's kind of like an underwritten agreement that they're both going to be benefiting from something that they'll do together and build again a part of relationship and as part of a network, and it benefits both of them. It's not just one-way street, but that's probably, well, that is how most of the successful people of the world operate, where they want to work with other successful people to build their own wealth again, really.
It's a level of respect as well, isn't there?
Yeah, that's it.
For me, a big part of me doing what I do or what we do is the respect that it affords you, because people understand, most people have an understanding, let's say, of how difficult it is to run a business. And unfortunately, there are some people in the mindset that, look, don't get me wrong, without the team that we have, and any business without the team, there's no business, because a business is only as good as its people. And good leaders will reward their people for doing the work that they do, provided the work is helping drive the business forward. And if it isn't, they shouldn't be a part of that business. But it's about the respect that I have earned myself. And I don't say it like that. It sounds quite sort of egotistical. But, we've worked hard for 10 years, whereas none of my friends, I don't know a single person who has remained in the same job for the last 10 years straight without moving. They've either changed position or they've changed careers completely, or they've changed jobs, different companies. We have remained with our company now for 10 years. And the level of sort of knowledge that we've been able to accumulate in one specific area has allowed us to make a success of our business, but also the respect that we've got from our team for the work that we put in and keeping them sort of, and their families, with a steady paycheck coming in, but also from our sort of friends who hopefully respect what we do on a daily basis and how we conduct ourselves. So I think another big benefit of having a business is, provided you do a good job and you're a good leader, that respect is something that, it is quite a nice side effect of having a business.
Yeah. And then, one of the other things, it's, the freedom element of it's, amazing. You've discussed, and we both discussed, moving abroad, and that's can be dependent on the business that you run and what sort of industry it is. But, for us, for example, we can have, we've got the luxury of being able to just move to, France, or move to, probably not France, but move to, Dubai, or move to like warm countries, or Spain or Greece or some of these, because you can just work and you've got that freedom, and it's massive, and it's nice to know that you've got that option, and even if you don't take it up. But, the other thing, I find property, that'd be a very interesting way of being able to buy property, in that you can use net profits of a company to buy houses as well.
It's another good benefit, yeah. No, that is a good benefit. Obviously, buying assets from a business is something that most people don't realize they can do. You can buy a lot of commercial real estate and put it into a pension. So again, something that our dad has done, he's nearing that retirement age now. He used the money from his pension to buy commercial assets that's then rented back to the business. As a business, we use that property to operate out of and then pay Carl's pension, the rental. So he's generating liquid cash every month through having the business. And again, for me, a business can operate in sort of many different sort of formats. And it is the flexibility of having a business and being a business owner where you can make that decision on what you're using the money to invest in. And you can be philanthropic if you'd like to. So again, any business that's being profitable at the end of the year, you can donate a percentage of that money to charity. Again, you can obviously also donate to sort of, again, hopefully your staff are being looked after. But if there's a cause that's close to your heart, you can use the profits of that business to help sort of invest in a charity or donate to a charity. Sorry.
I think the freedom element of it is massive. Now, I mean, slightly, well, same sort of topic, but a lot of tech companies at the minute are moving to Portugal. Now, the obvious reason is it's lovely, but they've created an environment for tech companies that, it's beneficial in tax incentives, I think, in some way. But again, having the freedom as a business, if, more countries are advantageous, it's good to be able to have the freedom of being able to move here, there, and, everywhere, really.
Don't get it twisted, though, because freedom is one of those things, all these things sound really lovely, having a business, owning a business, and freedom to travel where you want and freedom to pay yourself first. The first thing that you actually lose as a business owner is freedom, because you are tied to your business and you're tied to the business's success. I think nothing of working till 2 a.m, and that can be on any day of the week. It could be on multiple days a week. And that's because the drive for me pushing this business forward is so high that I don't mind sacrificing my evenings, my afternoons, my weekends, trips away, parties, going out, memories that I would make with friends to help push the business forward. And I think it's really important that as much as we're talking about all the benefits of owning a business, that we also need to sort of caveat all of them with, it's great to own a business, but actually the first thing that you lose if you want to be successful in business, certainly to begin with, is the freedom.
Yeah, well, definitely. The freedom definitely comes way after, and you have to have put in a serious amount of work, and that, the business needs to be able to work for itself to be able to get any sort of element of freedom, because it is 60, 70-hour work weeks. I mean, look at Elon Musk, he works, every waking hour. So it's important to make sure that, like you say, you caveat that, and it's very, very hard. I mean, you've got the weight of everyone's job on your shoulders. At the end of the day, if you get a bill for something, if you're just working a 9 to 5 and you hear that the company's got to pay, a big bill for whatever it might be, you'll think, oh, well, God, that's not great. But, if I lose my job, I'll just get one down the road. But that business owner has had to invest his time, money, and stress and energy into that company. And if something was to happen, they can lose everything depending on how the company's set up. You lose, the foundations, the offices, and everything. 100%. So it can be catastrophic. So there are, like you say, there are benefits, but there's also negatives as well.
Well, I'll go back to what Rob Moore says. If you don't risk anything, you risk everything. And it's one of those things for me as a business owner, it is the ultimate risk, because you put yourself in the firing line, you are responsible for other people. People, once you've started telling them, say that you're making a good go of starting and running a business, especially if you're building it from scratch. And depending on who you've got around you, there are going to be those haters, and people are going to want to see you fail. I don't know why, but that is just a fundamental characteristic of society at the minute anyway. People want to watch you fail.
I find UK society's worse than, say, America. I feel like in America, they're a lot more optimistic and a lot more pushing people to do better and start business. I feel like it's a bit more taboo in this country. I don't know what you think about that.
People just in general in this country are quite miserable, and they are happy to see people fail. And I don't know why. I think, I don't know, I just had a flashback of like Takeshi's Castle, where everyone's getting, sort of blasted with balls, and we find it hilarious, or like the thrown in a swamp. And it's funny watching people fail and watching, you've been framed. Oh. Things like that, those fail videos, as humans, I think in general, we do like to see people fail. But the reality of business owners is they risk so much in life that they put their house up for sale, they sell all their assets, they put everything they own into starting something that they believe could be their ticket to freedom. And when it all goes wrong, that is why, these benefits should be in place, certainly from a governmental level, to allow these people who are risking it all for the greater good of not just themselves, but their families and friends, but also the people they employ, also the government, as they'll be paying taxes and they'll be paying, corporation tax, paying VAT, paying salaries, employers' NI, all these things that businesses are contributing towards. And if the government starts taking these things away, like you said, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. They are the backbone of the economy.
Well, no one's ever going to want to start a business, and it's not even just the direct employees, it's the indirect employees. Like, we've got somewhere near us called the Copper Kettle, which, they do nice, amazing bacon sandwiches and sausage salad and all that, and, jack potatoes and all sorts of
Shout out Copper Kettle.
But, without the businesses in that area, they wouldn't exist, because there's going to be no businesses that are going to, like us, for example, where we go and take a customer, or people, again, that are around the same area, that go there and spend the money at a lunch, but without the businesses that have started in the first place, other businesses sprout up.
It's an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Look at Amazon. People say they're slave labor and they're a disgrace to mankind. How dare they even exist? Yet again, everyone will still go and have an Amazon Prime account and still buy things off Amazon, and yet still do the virtue signaling about how great they are and not support local businesses. But Amazon alone, as much as it's two-pronged, because they might say they're a drain on resources, but the local cardboard manufacturer, they might benefit from having Amazon nearby so they can sell their cardboard boxes to Amazon who are using it. Local racking services, PPE providers for safety equipment for the warehousing, local businesses who can now sell their products on Amazon. Do you know how many millionaires that have been generated through people selling their product on Amazon's store? Think of that as an opportunity. So people say Amazon is the worst thing in the world. Amazon Web Services is now starting into Blue Origin, which could help make us a multiplanetary species. And by all accounts, if we carry on the way we go in, World War III is on its way. And God knows we need to have a backup plan on Mars ASAP. So as much as Amazon are the devil, they don't get everything right. And I'm sure there are cases where workers have been mistreated. I'm sure there are cases where they've been underpaid and undervalued. I completely understand that. But at the same time, the thing we go back to on this podcast more than anything is self-accountability. You don't have to work at Amazon. Go and get another job. Work somewhere else. And that's easy for you to say. Well, it is easy for me to say because I've afforded myself the luxury of sacrificing everything to go and work for myself, so I don't need to go and work somewhere else. And that's a sacrifice that I made, as well as my time, as well as my money, as well as my freedom, to go and give myself that luxury. And everyone complaining about people who own businesses, that they're all benefiting off the hard work of other people and that they're basically slave laborers and all these sorts of things. Just go and start a business for yourself. And all these people just have the wrong mindset, because if they were to go and put themselves in our shoes or a business owner's shoes, even for a short while, they would see that actually we offer and contribute a lot to society and to the people around us for the greater good, not to try and, get rich off the back of other people's, hard work.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, you've got to, even starting a business, that whole process, you got to, register a company, and then you got to find, or like say a product or a service, and then you got to find and employ employees. Then you got to make sure you're HR compliant, and then you got to make sure you find an accountant. Then you got to file your accounts. And there's so much to it, and people think, oh, well, he's got a business and that's it. It's, it's difficult. It's hard work. And when you do afford yourself and you put those things in place, and you have managed to build a team and build a culture and build the systems, it's great, because then you do have more freedom. But to get to that point, it's a bit like when we've gone on about, overnight successes, and people only ever just see when it's built up and it's massive and it's, they're like, oh God, look at them, they've got a huge business, or but they didn't see all the backroom stuff, which took the years to build. I mean, again, with Amazon, like you were saying, he's got photos of him just with his desk.
I love that picture. Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's just he's there with his computer and he's with his hair, and you think, bloody, what is this guy doing? But, that again, that's the back room and what he was doing. And he was driving like just cars. I think that might have been when he made
£200 banger, even still, yeah.
But no, I mean, one of the shows that I love to watch, and I think it's the same with you, where you're watching these entrepreneurs and how people build the businesses. It's like Dragon's Den and Shark Tank, and you get Peter Jones and, the Mark Cubans and the people these people that come in to pitch to them, like, Levi Roots, where they just have like a dream and he's got this sauce. And then, but again, with him, it's going to have taken a long, long time for him to actually get to a point where he's labeled a bottle, found the recipe, found someone to bottle it for him and all this sort of stuff. And there's a big, long process to it all.
Created the tune.
Give
us a song.
Learn the guitar. And, I'm not quite at that level yet, but I can play a beat on the drums.
I mean, it just, people again forget how much work goes into it from the business owner's perspective. And people need to understand, and they'd be a bit more forgiving on the business owner's side and stop seeing them as slave masters and start seeing them more as people who have tried to make a dent in their own world or in the world around them and try to help people solve a problem and make the world a better place. Because without businesses innovating, there wouldn't be an Apple. You wouldn't have an iPhone. We wouldn't have these iPads rather, a bit big for an iPod, but we wouldn't have these microphones, this TV in the background. Without businesses, none of this around us would exist, because what would be the point in anybody bothering innovating anything? We'd still be living in a cave, realistically. People are traveling on planes to and from different countries on their holidays, and they fail to realise that was, two brothers who had an idea, who wanted to really create human flight, and they spent their time and their years, their money, hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, finding a solution to a problem, and they've solved it, where now millions of people every year can enjoy a summer holiday and get to Spain in 2 hours, just because a business created the means for them to be able to do that. And again, whether it's a phone, whether it's a camera, whether it's a microphone, whatever it is around you, a business is responsible for that. So obviously, those are some of the benefits that I can think of to having a business, also some of the drawbacks to having it. So genuinely, I'd say give it a go. If there's anything that we would sort of say to you, I know we've covered some of the negatives, but mainly take away the benefits that we've given today from having a business, whether you pay yourself first, the freedom that it affords you, the places that you can travel, the people that you get to meet, and just roll the dice. Because like I said in another episode, just ask yourself, what if starting that business could be the best thing that you ever do, and you might end up being the next Elon Musk. So stick around for more advice from us at the Brothers in Business, and click like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.